Story 1. I have a friend who works for a dating app. I think it is Tinder. The company is not important. What matters is that her entire job is to remove inappropriate images. She looks at explicit photos all day, 5 days a week. No exaggeration. It is a really strange job. Story 2. My ex-boyfriend worked for the Yahoo Italy dating site in the early 2000s. His job was to pretend to be a woman and message men just as their accounts were about to expire to encourage them to pay to renew their subscriptions. Once they renewed, he would ghost them. He lasted only a few months because it was unethical. Story 3. Guys swipe right on 47% of profiles. Women only swipe right on 12%. I knew some guys would swipe right more than women, but I was not prepared for how little women swipe right. Searching for serious or casual relationships for men versus women. 61% of men want something serious while 38% want something casual. 87% of women want something serious while only 13% want something casual. It is worth noting that on that last one, it is partially because of a difference in how men and women describe themselves if they are not sure. Women would rather say something serious if they are unsure to see how it goes but are happy for it to turn casual if they are not feeling it. Men would prefer to say something casual and then be happy for it to turn serious if they like someone. This is why we have given in and added a not sure option in our big update next week. Feedback on chats and users. We are unique in that we only let you chat with 3 users at a time, so you have to end a chat to talk to someone new. When you end a chat, you have to give private feedback. Here is some of the feedback people choose. You can pick more than one. 34% ghosted or did not say anything. 12% great chat. 11% polite and respectful. 11% not enough in common. 8% no chemistry. 8% hard to talk to. 2% rude or inappropriate. Why people ghost. We call ourselves the anti-ghosting app because we notify you if someone replaces your chat with someone new, since you can only talk to 3 people at a time. That does not stop rejection, but at least you are not left wondering and waiting. We did some research with users to find out why people ghost on dating apps. They could choose more than one answer. 43% to avoid the awkwardness of saying they were not interested. 37% they said or did something I did not like. 36% was too busy and then it was too late. 32% could not be bothered to keep replying. 28% I forgot to reply. 25% could not think of a reply. 23% too many other people to respond to. 22% I have never ghosted anyone. 6% other. Source. I am the founder of a dating app. Edit 2. Thank you for all the awards, support and kind words. Seriously means a lot. I have tried to answer as many questions as I can, and I might even do a proper Ask Me Anything when we launch our big update next week if there is interest. Story 4. I used to work at Bumble about 4 to 5 years ago. Globally, about 90% of users were men, so there was a large male to female disparity, although in some countries the balance was closer. The most depressing statistic was the histogram of word counts in messages. About 91% of opening messages consisted of a single word, often hey, and around 85% of conversations lasted only one exchange. For example, hey followed by no reply. Seeing human digital mating habits presented as data was depressing. Update. This thread received a large response. I will answer frequent questions. 1. When I worked there, we were not allowed to read the content of chats, only to gather metadata such as word count and number of exchanges. We could not build models that analyze chat content, for example classifying a chat as about food, holidays, or sexual content. This was due to draft rules for the General Data Protection Regulation and Bumble's terms of service and privacy practices at the time. Bumble took user privacy seriously, so chats were never read or analyzed for content, not even by automated models. This was 4 to 5 years ago. The company may have changed its terms of service since then or may analyze content in countries not covered by the General Data Protection Regulation, such as the United States. Therefore, we do not know for certain that the single most common opening word was hey. It could have been hello or howdy. In the office, we assumed hey based on our app experience, But we did know with certainty that about 91% of first messages used only one word. 2. The countries I remember with better male-to-female ratios included Sweden and Norway, which were close to 50-50. For a time, one of them even had more women than men on the app. 3. The General Data Protection Regulation rules were released in 2016 but were not enforced until 2018. The 2-year grace period allowed firms to implement the legal and technical controls required for compliance. Many compliance and technology teams in London focused on becoming compliant during that period. Bumble was already compliant with respect to user chats before 2018, based on the company's privacy practices. We were restricted from reading chat messages by a combination of Bumble's terms of service and draft privacy rules. I used General Data Protection Regulation as shorthand for the various privacy rules in effect then. I apologize for not specifying the exact rules in years earlier. 4. All numbers are from my memory of what I saw 4 to 5 years ago and are not official or academic. Final note. Thank you kindly for the awards and responses. Story 5. I ran operations for an online dating company, not affiliated with Match. From database analytics, I can tell you a few things. Men initiate contact around 80% of the time in heterosexual matchmaking. If you are a woman seeking to date other women, initiating contact yourself greatly increases your chance of success because it is common for matches between women to occur without either person initiating contact. If I recall correctly, we determined that it takes on average about 3 dates before sex happens. I do not recall the exact method we used. I am not a data analyst, but it was likely a keyword-based algorithm analyzing chat messages. We received so many information requests from the police that we established an informal system. To avoid wasting time on warrants for people for whom we had no data, the police would ask about a particular name, email address, or other identifier. We would reply whether we had data on that person, and if we did, they would then obtain a warrant to receive a copy. One other thing I can tell you from our analytics, which should not be surprising, is to get some decent profile photos. Ask a talented friend or hire a photographer to take well-lit, well-composed photos of yourself, and watch your match rate soar. Story 6. My former boss was the financial controller of a large dating site. He kept seeing large invoices from modeling agencies and initially assumed they were for the big parties the company hosted. When he asked about them, he learned the invoices were for content used to create fake profiles designed to lure users. Story 7. I used to work at a dating site in the United Kingdom. I was on the tech side, but most of the staff were young women who manually approved images and text changes to profiles. There were 10 to 15 of them, and the turnover rate was about 1 per week. The work was mind-numbing. Around 10 times a day they would shout, "Got another one," which meant one of the hundreds of thousands of men on the site had decided to upload a picture of his penis. They would laugh, cancel the upload, and go back to reading about people's pets or whatever else they found interesting. Story 8. A couple met on the dating application I worked on. Unfortunately, the man died, and the woman returned to the application where they had met to remember him. One day, a bug in the system caused some profile likes to be resent after months, and she received one from her deceased boyfriend. Her bug report was heartbreaking. Story 9. This was years ago. I worked with an engineer from Match.com who said 99% of the profiles were inactive and 80% of active profiles were men. He did not provide numbers but said there was a large disparity between the average number of messages sent to women and the number sent to men. Overall, the site was mostly men reaching out to inactive profiles and not receiving responses. However, this was years ago, so it is possible they have cleaned the site since then. Story 10. I would love to know how openly cynical the algorithm really is. My feed on Hinge shows absolutely no one I am interested in. Then the roses feature appears, and I am interested in everyone in that section. But it costs £4 to buy one rose, which is no guarantee of a match, much less a date. The company wants to keep you using the app and spending money for as long as possible. Their slogan designed to be deleted is nonsense and comical. You cannot turn to other apps because they are all owned by the same corporation. Story 11. This is not my work, but a friend wrote her master's thesis about the different criteria in online dating and in real life. Almost half, 43%, of the female participants who were in a relationship said they would never have swiped right on their current partner. Another interesting result was that over 60% of men who exchanged messages with women on apps and then agreed to go on a date would have had no chance if they had approached them in real life. Since many people asked about the thesis, I will ask her if she can share it here. Be prepared. It is in German. Regarding the second point, I do not know exactly how she worded the survey question, but if I recall correctly, she was referring to clubs and similar venues. Story 12. Many gay men are banned from Grindr for selling cannabis. I used to receive numerous emails asking why they were banned. If you visit their profiles, it will say hit me up for that. Story 13. I met my partner, with whom I now have a child, because she handed her phone to a friend who accidentally swiped up while taking it and super liked me. Story 14. We created fake accounts to chat with users. Reasons included premium account holders not receiving responses and bored employees. Story 15. I never worked at OkCupid, but years ago I reported a few profiles and they made me a moderator. There were more fake or scam profiles than explicit images. Some profiles were reported because someone disliked how the person acted, but reverse image searching typically showed those profiles were fake or belonged to real people who were not on a dating site. There were many proven catfish reports and a lot of cute pets. Pictures had to be of the user, not their dog, so we would tell the other moderators, cute dog, but breaks the rules. We would also reverse image search the dog's photo and sometimes find it belonged to someone else. Story 16. Approximately 9,000 women from the Pacific Northwest love adventure. Story 17. Okay, so I did not work with a dating company per se, but I helped software engineers optimize their profiles. Men get very few matches regardless of how good their profile is. Women get many matches, but most of those matches are useless. Edit. This received a lot of attention, so I wanted to share my basic advice. 1. Don't try to appeal mildly to everyone. Appeal strongly to a small subset of people. Emphasize who you are. 2. Show, don't tell. What makes a person want to date you? Will you impress them with your volunteer work? Will you take them to fun places? Will you make them laugh? 3. Get good photos. If you have to, ask a friend with a good camera to take photos of you multiple times over a day with several changes of clothes. 4. Be brutally honest. Do you need to go to the dentist because your teeth are discolored? Go. Do you need a haircut? If you are male, go somewhere that charges $50 for a haircut and tell the stylist to do what looks best. Do your clothes fit? Ask a fashionable friend. Remember that people judge you on your appearance as much as you judge them. They cannot see that you are funny or interesting. They can see whether you are well-groomed and making an effort. Any further advice and I charge $50 an hour. Story 18. I worked for Match for a couple of years. This is probably widely known, but women frequently lie about their age and weight, and men lie about their height and salary. It is also a big problem that women are inundated with direct messages while most men receive none. Story 19. The creator of Match.com was cheated on and left him for a man she met there. Story 20. I used to moderate OkCupid. The number of unsolicited pictures of male genitalia that men sent to women, often without any words, was horrifying. You would expect it because online dating is a cesspit, but the sheer volume still surprised me. I had to look at each reported picture and say, yes, that's a penis. Story 21. Finally, an AskReddit question I can answer. This is a throwaway account because much of this information is not positive. I worked for a dating app for a few years in a senior role and was privy to almost all the inner workings. I will not name the company, but I think these observations apply to other apps as well. 1. We had a murder connected to our platform. Company leaders were interviewed as witnesses. To be honest, there was not really anything we could have done about it, but it is still shocking. 2. One member was scammed out of 6 figures and there was nothing we could do. She was older and lonely, and the scammer used an attractive picture and kind words to exploit that. If you allow it, people will find ways to scam and abuse those who are lonely. Our systems for detecting and removing scammers and spammers were far more advanced than our systems for actually creating good matches. Older women were the most likely to be scammed. 3. The algorithms are less sophisticated than you think. They mostly consist of educated guesses and trial and error to see what creates the most engagement. Engagement can mean returning to the app or sending messages. The main goal of the algorithm is to get you to pay, not to ensure you meet someone in real life, despite our rationalizations. 4. No dating or psychological experts were consulted when we built the software that plays Cupid and changes the course of people's lives. I thought it would be valuable to have scientists and clinicians advise us on attraction and relationship success. But nobody was interested. 5. I met hundreds of users in person and most were great people. Many agreed to talk because they were struggling to find matches on our app. It was sad that the software was failing some of the best, most lovely people. 6. Almost every dating app has a significantly larger percentage of men than women. 7. We tried a blind dating test where you could not see a user's profile picture until after a match, but it failed quickly. People are truly superficial. We did not create fake accounts, and we were proud of that. Some apps do create them, and it is usually obvious. Fake profiles often feature a very attractive person who likely does not need dating apps, are shown early in the queue, and have photos that look like Instagram influencer level quality. I can answer general questions if they are broad enough. Story 22. Someone should put a serious tag on this. I am genuinely curious about the answers. Story 23. This is probably going to get buried. I used to work for Shag, a site based in the United Kingdom, as a content creator. I replied to messages from users. I was paid between 11 pence and 18 pence per message, with bonuses for reaching certain message amounts. It was mostly men who wanted to chat and masturbate, but I met some interesting people. 1. A man in his 60s whose wife had died a few weeks earlier. He had not had sex in years and said he needed a release. He spoke at length about how he had picked me because I looked like his dead wife in her prime. 2. A man in his 80s who was a former porn star. He sent multiple links to his videos and talked at length about his trips to Africa and the charity work he had done. 3. A lot of obvious pedophiles and rapists. It was pretty scary what people would admit to with enough pushing. 4. Many men who agreed to whatever weird fetish I made up that day. It all came to an end for me when a man told me his father had died that morning and he would not be around for a while. I was reviewed for my reply, which was, "I am really sorry for your loss. If you need to talk, I will be here for you." They suggested that I should have replied, "Do you not care about me? I have needs too." I realized that the site owners really did not care at all. Edit. This blew up a lot more than I expected. Thank you to everyone who gave awards and Reddit gold. I never expected my most upvoted comment on Reddit to be about this. Story 24. OkCupid has a blog where it shares some cool insights. Story 25. Before online dating, I worked at a telephone dating company that handled voicemail, live chat, and similar services. They are all out of business now. Here are some interesting tidbits. The people who made the ads were just regular people. Moms and older women, they were rarely men, contrary to what you might expect. Only men paid to chat or send messages, regardless of sexual orientation. Women used the service for free. One service was created by a gay man who wanted to meet other men. So he reviewed profiles to find suitable matches. The people who recorded the prompts were regular office staff, not professionals. I recorded a set once, and a caller asked to meet me because he liked my voice. We regularly reviewed customer ads to prevent prostitution or overly explicit public content. One time a man recorded a public ad saying he was Chuck, had a pickup truck, and invited people to call to hook up. Story 26. There was a post about 1 to 2 months ago on the dating advice subreddit that explained the best way to use Tinder to your benefit. It advised not to like every profile and not to like profiles that include an Instagram link, because most of the time those users do not respond and are looking for followers. Instead, focus on profiles with a good bio. Over 1 to 3 weeks, the algorithm will learn your preferences and start matching you with better candidates. At first you may have 1 or 2 matches, but over time you will get more. Most people give up after 4 days, which is not enough time for the algorithm to learn your preferences. I found the thread on Reddit. Story 27. I tried to sign up for Match years ago, but they denied me because the system could not find any matches. Story 28. I cannot access external links or images. Please paste the infographic text here or upload the image file. I will then correct spelling, expand all acronyms, remove repetition and special characters, fix punctuation, and return a cleaned version formatted for Azure text-to-speech. Story 29. My takeaway from this is that I am screwed. Between the pandemic, my lack of social skills, and intense shyness and introversion, I am going to be a 40-year-old virgin. Update. I was not expecting to come back to this. I appreciate all the kind words and tips. I have been working on improving myself and my social skills, but it has been difficult with everything going on. Take care. Story 30. This is my favorite story from my time working at People Media, part of Match, several years ago when I was a software engineer. One day, while working in the code for our spam filters, I stumbled across a curious statement. If user ID is equal to XXXXX return. It meant that if a user had a certain ID, the profile would not be filtered as spam. I laughed and thought, what in the world is this? A few senior engineers explained that there was a man who sent messages at such high volume that he constantly triggered the spam filters, which on a dating site is actually hard to do. He had called to complain several times. They investigated his messaging and found that not only was he messaging many people, he was not copying and pasting his messages. He simply liked to reach out to many women. Nothing inappropriate, just a very high-volume sender. So eventually someone added a backdoor to the spam filter specifically for him. It blew my mind that a single user had a piece of code to keep his profile from being filtered. Think millions of users across multiple sites, and this person had a small exception just for him. An engineer wrote it, quality assurance tested it, and development operations deployed it. That alone probably cost more than he had paid over the years. But there it was. Story 31. I've heard online dating described as, for women, it's looking for a diamond in a sea of dick pics, and for men, it's shouting into the void. Pretty accurate, although I ended up meeting my fiancé online. Story 32. My experience is from when it was dating sites instead of apps. I wonder what has changed. I was surprised by the amount of effort it took to remove nude or explicit photos. We also removed sex workers from the site daily. I am sure they use artificial intelligence now to filter those, but it probably still involves a lot of manual work. It was almost impossible to get women to initiate contact. We did whatever we could to make the site more appealing to women, but the difference in messages from men to women versus from women to men was startling, about 1 to 1,000. I was also an active user on that platform. If I received a message from a woman, it was almost always from a sex worker, so I deleted the account. The partner matching algorithm was honest and real because I coded it. There was absolutely no trickery on that site. That was one reason I loved the job. Sadly, the company went bust in the dot-com bubble and I lost some money. I never found another job that was so much fun with such a great team. I missed those times. Edit. After reading other comments, my own success rate on 2 or 3 dating sites I tried was abysmal. I am not conventionally attractive, but based on my insider experience, I do not think that mattered. Over the course of 5 years, I gained a handful of friends from those sites, and if I recall correctly, one-night stand. I did have one serious relationship. By contrast, a female friend of mine is currently using one app. She goes on many dates, but they tend to be with creeps or otherwise uninteresting people. She is looking for something serious and has been unable to find it. While I may not be attractive, that woman is attractive, slim, athletic, has long blonde hair, is successful at her job, and is financially independent. Still, nothing. The statistics match my personal experience. Online dating simply does not work. Edit. Pro ladies meaning sex workers. I tried to be polite, but that phrasing does not work in English. Story 33. Many applications deploy attractive chatbots to keep people engaged. The chatbots send or reply to a few bland questions. For example, how was your week? And what are you looking for? Then stop responding. Despite the ghosting, The thrill of matching with a very attractive person who spoke to you is enough to get many people hooked and chasing the dragon. I have an unproven theory. I work on the communication side, not in engineering, and these chatbots created ghosting culture. The chatbots abruptly stopped chatting, which is not how a real person normally ends a conversation. People became so used to it happening to them that they started doing it to others. It is learned behavior. Story 34. Most profiles that appear to be women are bots used to attract male users. Fake profiles are stolen directly from Facebook. When a woman signs up for a dating app using Facebook, her fake Facebook profile is deleted. Story 35. I managed and worked on a short-term personal security detail for a C-list celebrity in Los Angeles. I will not mention the name because I do not want to be doxxed, but there is a huge problem with people being stealthily infected with the human immunodeficiency virus and other venereal diseases, as well as being mugged or robbed while using these apps. Victims often threaten to lash out at the company or even show up at company offices demanding to speak to someone in charge during the initial stage of anger, despite the company having no personal role beyond providing the platform for meetings. Apparently, the company cannot even send a warning about a suspected user accused of stealthing to law enforcement or public health because counsel advises that it would be slanderous without bona fide evidence that the person is positive for the disease, or that they committed a crime, or that the two met and had intercourse. The companies do cooperate with law enforcement on a case-by-case basis, if I recall correctly, but they have the right to refuse to disclose information and wait for a subpoena before sharing user information or chat logs. Meanwhile, multiple people have been robbed of thousands of dollars or infected with diseases, and many more potential victims remain while the company does little and lets complaints pile up. It is a messy area where it is often cheaper for a company not to get involved. Even banning a user from the service requires several steps. I do not blame the victims for being livid. It is a complete mess. We obtained a few still images of the people we were monitoring. They looked like ordinary men and women who were pushed to their breaking point because they trusted someone from a dating app. Could happen to anyone. Story 36. I forgot the source, but I remember a site published data suggesting that women are much more selective than men. Men were typically attracted to about half of the women they saw, whereas women were attracted to about 10% of men. The study also noted differences in attention by gender and ethnic group. I do not want to go into that. Search online if you are curious. Story 37. I worked with Bumble for about a year, and the most notable user statistic was that Reddit users are often sexually adventurous and will insert objects into their rectums. Story 38. I never worked for Tinder, but I discovered a behind-the-scenes issue that could have ruined my relationship. If you have used Tinder, please read this. It could help you if you are in an abusive relationship. I met my then partner on Tinder a few years ago. We hit it off and started dating. I had heard that uninstalling the application would not delete your account, so I wiped my profile thoroughly. I deleted all my photos and biography, made the profile private, deleted the account, then uninstalled the application. 7 months later, my partner's friend came across my Tinder profile. The photo was my public Facebook profile picture, and the biography was empty. I had never reactivated my profile and had no idea this was happening. I discovered Tinder had automatically grabbed my Facebook information, recreated my account, and made it public. Fortunately, my Facebook picture was a very affectionate couple's photo, so my partner trusted me, but I was horrified because clients, friends, and others on Tinder must have seen that profile and assumed I was cheating. To be sure, it was not a fake profile someone else controlled. I re-downloaded Tinder in front of my partner and logged in. I was logging into the exact almost empty profile his friend had described. It turns out Tinder did this to anyone who forgot to restrict third-party application access on Facebook. At the time, that was a buried Facebook setting you needed to be on a desktop to deactivate. I went online to warn people because I care about online privacy, but I was accused of being a cheater and trying to cover my tracks. Nobody believed me, even though my partner was completely on my side. I deleted those posts and deeply regret it. Imagine if someone in an abusive relationship had this happen to them. An abusive partner would likely never believe the explanation because it sounds far-fetched. An application automatically creating an account and making it public without warning. This happened in 2015, And I found 2 other forum posts from that time describing the same problem, so I do not know whether it has been changed since. Restrict third-party access in your Facebook settings. I am tired of messages accusing me of lying or claiming Tinder deactivates accounts that are inactive for a week. I have had periods of not logging in for over a month with no changes. I have no reason to invent this story. Other users have shared similar experiences. Please stop being nasty to someone trying to warn others about another application that can violate your privacy. Story 39. As a normal person, I often wonder why some men think sending explicit photos is a good idea. Story 40. This video helps illustrate the differences between men and women on Tinder. Story 41. I have not worked in a dating company, but I run a private geek dating group. Here are a few fun things I learned. 1. Men create about 7 to 8 times as many dating posts as women, but women may get up to 10 times as much engagement. Men typically get around 20 likes at best, while women get between 50 and 250 likes. 2. Geek men often repeat a single odd tactic because it worked once or twice. For example, they repeatedly mention a strange collection or boast about an unusual trait. 3. About 1 in 5 geek women are open to polyamorous or open relationships. 4. Most men describe themselves as gamers, movie fanatics, anime fans, or tabletop game players. Women more often talk about their love of literature and movies, and less often mention video games, manga, anime, or comics. 5. Bans occur about twice every 3 months, at a ratio of 4 men to 1 woman, usually for creepy comments, harassment, or being abusive to administrators or group members. Story 42. I worked for Successful Singles in 2001, a dating agency. We cold called potential customers to persuade them to spend $3,000 to be professionally matched. We received some money if they showed up and more if they purchased the service. The company claimed to have a highly technological matching computer. In reality, 2 high school girls sat in a room with 2 filing cabinets, 1 labeled male and 1 labeled female. All leads came from a fake profile on Match.com that said, "Send me your phone number so we can talk." After I was wrongfully terminated, I contacted Fox 25 News undercover. Reporter Mike Bowdit came out with a camera hidden in a purse. The business closed 2 days after the report. Story 43. I worked as a software engineer for a dating site in the mid-2000s. Every female profile was fake. They were generated using arbitrary data and paid lewd photos from various sources. The sites we ran targeted men who paid for the service. If you signed up as a woman, the site was free because the ratio of paying men to real women was so large. The fake female profiles would message newly registered men almost immediately to give them a confidence boost. They often replied quickly, and after a few messages that were intentionally escalated in tone across several profiles, the user would receive a notification asking him to pay to send more messages. If the user did not pay, the site continued sending messages from different fake profiles, all behind a paywall to see more photos or reply at all. The refund window was very short, so by the time a user realized he was chatting with profiles generated by artificial intelligence, his refund request was often denied because the policy window had expired and he had agreed to it at sign-up. By the time a site became widely known as a scam, we would launch a new site under a different name, logo, and design and repeat the process. This continued for months and years across hundreds of sites under various names. In summary, it was toxic. I hated it and I am glad I quit. Story 44. As I am reading through these comments, I am interested in the statistics and trends on dating apps geared to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and asexual people, where the specific male and female dynamics are not always applicable to the context. There is a lot of social culture that goes into gay dating depending on how you identify and who you are interested in. Story 45. OkCupid has a series of blog posts analyzing data such as this. Look up OK Trends. It is fascinating. Story 46. A Tinder employee, looking at dating data, says, "Whoa, this is messed up." When they look at gay dating data, they say, "Whoa, never mind." Story 47. I conducted a study on how dating app use affects narcissistic tendencies, both adaptive and maladaptive. I found that people with more pathological, Maladaptive narcissism are more socially and emotionally impaired when they do not get the results they desire. Narcissism exists on a continuum from grandiose to vulnerable, and this shows how damaging these tendencies can be for anyone who expresses them. Most people know about grandiose narcissism, but many do not know about the vulnerable side. These individuals idolize someone and will do anything for that person. Because they seek to fill a missing sense of self through others, dating app use is especially dangerous. They may spend hours searching for someone, and when they do not match with that person, it can cause a narcissistic injury. Story 48. I read a blog by someone who used to work at OkCupid. He said the creepiest thing about the site is that every move you make, every photo you click on, and every message you send is logged. They also keep track of the accounts that receive the most attention and use their images in advertising and across the site. All of this is an effort to commercialize our need for intimacy and human contact and to reinforce culturally imposed standards of beauty. If that is not creepy, I do not know what is. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.